Hi BookTube, I'm here with my top reads of 2021. I have 15 total, so there are 10 fiction and 5 non-fiction. They're in no order except for the best book of the year. Okay, so we're just gonna begin with fiction, and in no order right now. We have Please Look After Mum by Kyung-Suk Shin, and this is about a family searching for their elderly mother with dementia. She wandered off and got lost, and they are searching for her. I really liked the perspective of the mother commenting on her children's life. That was a really standout feature and why this book kind of made its way to this list. And the writing was great. I really enjoyed the writing style. The next book is one of the funniest books I've ever read, and that is Guards Guards by Terry Pratchett. This is actually the first Night Watch book in the Discworld series, so if you don't know, Discworld has like 40 plus books in it, and then it's divided in kind of like sub-series. So the Night Watch books, this is the first book in the sub-series. It's just very funny and very insightful, and like it makes you realize things, but it also makes you laugh. And all I'm gonna say about that is farting dragons. If that doesn't get you to read the book, then it's probably not for you. The next book is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I'm kind of ashamed that it took me so long to get to this classic, but I'm very, very glad I did. It's about a woman trying to figure out who she is and doing it in her own way and not letting other people define her. And she doesn't, immediately come to that. She has to struggle to that point. And it was written in 1937, but it still feels so relevant to today. The next one is House of Chains by Steven Erikson. Would it be a top list of mine without including a Malazan book? So this is the 4th book in the Malazan series. We go back to the characters and events of the 2nd novel. So the novel isn't necessarily linear. The 5th book actually takes place before everything else, and yeah, it's interesting, and you can see why he does that too. And just the world building in these books is so astounding. Another general book theme that cannot be missed out on my top list is a Stargate novel. And this is Mirror Mirror by Sabine Seebauer. And this is a Stargate Atlantis novel. Stargate Atlantis is my all-time favorite show. All-time favorite show. And the novels always make this list because I just love the characters so much. And this was actually a standout. Because before she even named a character, I was like, I know who that is, because she just got it so right. And I know these characters very well because I've seen this show like 20 times. And so like to be able to get that and say like, yeah, she's got the characters right. It doesn't always happen in Stargate Atlantis novels. And I liked it so much. I liked her writing and the story idea that she came up with so much that I looked for other books written by her, but she doesn't have anything else out. Not even other Stargate stuff. She actually started out as a fan fiction writer, which is pretty cool. And so this book is about a device that creates parallel universes and a way to travel between them, and kind of the Atlantis team gets divided up into all these different parallel universes, and they have to find the original team to put them back together. Another book on this list is Hardboiled and Hard Luck by Banana Yoshimoto. This is actually 2 stories collected in one edition, and they both stand out. So the first one is about a woman staying in a hotel. It's a very basic summary, but these stories are so short that I don't want to give much away. And the second book is about a sister watching her other sister die, which is, yeah, very, very different tone, but still very good. I enjoyed both of these stories immensely. Another book on this list is The Labyrinth's Archivist by Day Al-Mohammed, and this was just a fascinating world. It's about this hub where a bunch of other different worlds kind of connect to it, and we follow this blind character who wants to transcribe the stories of the travelers of the archive, and things don't go so smoothly for her because she's blind and she can't see to write and draw maps and stuff like that. So she has, ways of working around things, but then her grandmother is also murdered, so that's what gets the plot going. So that's so much fun, and there's this promise at the end that we're gonna go off and explore these other worlds, and it seems like a really ripe world to explore. Another book on this list is The Back of the Turtle by Thomas King. I've only ever read nonfiction by Thomas King, and I've always enjoyed it and always loved it, so I was excited to read a fiction book of his, and it did not disappoint because obviously it's on this list. This is the story of an indigenous man who leaves the reservation and his family behind to go work at this giant corporation until a discovery of his causes a major environmental disaster. And this is a book of multiple perspectives, and every perspective I enjoyed. And normally I don't like perspectives of rich people, but the CEO of the company, he got a perspective of it, and I enjoyed that too, and all the immense suffering that he was going to experience, because he deserves it. Anyways, the next book on this list is Adorned Ocean by Joan Slonczewski, and this is a great feminist science fiction. I believe it's from the 70s or 80s. It's about a planet populated solely by a species of pacifist women. So the planet they orbit is much like Earth, and that Earth-like planet, I can't remember the name of it, wants to take over Shora, the planet of these women. And it's just very great examples of pacifist resistance to violence. You know, if you ever think like, how can you be pacifist and resist, read this book. It is amazing. And the top fiction work of the year for me is The Grey House by Miriam Peterson. And this book would have been, like, for me it is like a 10-star book. Like, it is amazing. But if I had read this book, if this book had been around when I was a teenager and I had read this book as a teenager, this book would have defined my whole existence as a teenager. Like, it is amazing. It's about a group of it's about a group home for disabled teens, and we just follow them on their day-to-day lives that are not so ordinary, and not because they're disabled. That just happens to be something that is, but because like there's stuff going on in the house that may or may not be real, that may be like a time loop of parallel universes, magical realism. These characters might be just repeating their same lives over and over again, or they may be new, or like, it's just amazing, the story, the plot line. It's absurd and magical and creepy and endearing. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to rereading that. On to the nonfiction list. There's only 5 books on this list, and they're in no order until the top one, which will be the last book. So first on the list, but only because it was the first book that I put on the list, is Silver Sword and Stone by Marie Arana. And this is the history of Latin America from pre-contact to present day, and divided into different themes. So Silver theme was about wealth and wealth extraction, and she relates present day people, like specific people and their lives, to the history of Latin America, and it's really well done. Sword is about violence, obviously, and Stone is about religion. And so like there's 3 different sections. And I really love history that's not necessarily told, you know, in a linear fashion, but is grouped by themes. And then you can see, you know, once you learned about violence and wealth, or once you learned about wealth, you can see where the violence was. And once you learned about the violence, you can see where the religion was. So it was really, really well done. The next book on this list is The Alphabet versus the Goddess by Leonard Schlann. And this is about the correlation. I use that word correlation instead of causation. He argues causation, but I think it's more correlation. Anyways, the correlation between the rise of the written alphabet and the decline of feminine power throughout history. Really interesting topic. He begins like from the evolution of humans to the 90s when the book was published, early 2000s. And it was how the written word has affected women throughout history, from the way our brains developed to witch hunts and more. It was really, really good. I didn't always agree with his arguments. Some of them seem a little stretched, but it definitely made me think a lot, and I loved that. The next book is The Storm is Upon Us by Mike Rothschild, and this is about the rise of QAnon. So I had known vaguely about QAnon. I know that it's, you know, this weird cult where people believe these weird things, and it has to do a lot with Trump and stuff like that, but this laid it out very clearly. It gives you a history of QAnon, the way it has affected people, you know, from its point of origin, from like the very first information drop from Q, to the present day. And then it also at the end and throughout provides you with steps for helping people out of the Q cult. It's very, very eye-opening, very relevant to present day. This book was so close to the top, but it just was eked out this much by the top book. And that is The Making of Biblical Womanhood by Beth Allison Barr. And it's an examination of the evolution of the role of women in Christianity. And it started with an evaluation of her own faith when she was told in the church that she wasn't allowed to teach men past a certain age. She was allowed to do Sunday school, but because she was a woman, she wasn't allowed to do, teach men. And because that's according to the Bible. And so she decided to take a look at it. She's, PhD in medieval history, and she's like, no, this isn't right. Let me lay this all out. She wrote a whole book about it. Yeah, and she made me think differently about Paul, and that is really hard to do because I hate Paul a lot. And then she had a whole section on him, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is different from what I thought it was. We have to look at it. We can't just read the Bible. We have to know the context and everything that things were set in. And the top nonfiction of 2021 for me was Deep Diversity by Shakil Chaudhry. And I want everyone to read this book. Like, if you're looking for a book about being anti-racist, about being anti-ableist, about being anti-misogyny, anti-anything, if you're looking to just rid yourself of judgments, this is the book you need to read. It's about, like, all these other books that I've read about, mostly anti-racism, are good. They present arguments, factual arguments, that you'd use in an argument. Right? If that makes sense. This book is about, like, addressing your own brain. And it doesn't talk a lot about history, it's talking about, like, brain hacks to get you to think differently about people. So he provides you with practical brain hacks and practices to overcome judgmental behavior, especially racist and ableist behaviors, and even working on that subconsciously. So it's the first book about this kind of topic that I read that wasn't just stating facts and providing arguments, though those books are definitely important and helpful, but this actually dealt with how to personally deal with your own racism and ableism and all of that. And so to any books on these two lists, I'd highly recommend you read this one the most. So that's it from me. Let me know what your top books of the year were. Fiction, non-fiction. Don't think there's well, maybe if you blend fiction and non-fiction together, there's a third genre in there. And thank you for watching.